Everyone's saying Christian Horner's exit was all about a personal scandal or a paddock power struggle. But when you read Oliver Mintzlaff's words carefully, a very different and much more strategic story emerges. This was a deliberate corporate reset. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly what Mintzlaff confirmed, and more importantly, what he very carefully avoided saying. Stick with me until the end. I'll point out 3 signals that will show whether this change is truly transformative or just symbolic. Why does this matter right now? Because Formula One is just a few corners away from a technical revolution in 2026. Red Bull doesn't swap its team boss on the apex of that corner on a whim. If this change was about aligning governance, that changes everything. From engine development with Ford, to upgrade strategy, to who has the final say in the decisions that win championships. Let's start with what was actually said, and the practical impact of those phrases. On the surface, Mintzlaff did 2 things at once. He honored Horner's legacy and framed the replacement as a calculated corporate decision. Lines like, "Christian has a huge track record, and we all appreciate what he has done," work to smooth over reputational cracks. But the real core of the statement is a short sentence. "We knew we had to do something." That's not drama, it's institutional justification. When an organization puts that kind of language out in public, it's saying, there was an assessment, there was consensus, and there was urgency. This wasn't one impulsive manager acting alone. Here's the first clear confirmation: the decision was backed and driven by the Red Bull GmbH structure. Mintzlaff said they were 100% behind this move. That officially blows up the narrative of a personal firing, a slap on the wrist in the heat of the moment, or an improvised substitution. It was a reset authorized from the top. But what did Mintzlaff avoid saying? That's where it gets explosive. He didn't spell out the concrete events that justified this loss of trust. He didn't put blame on any specific person. He didn't say whether there was clear pressure from Max Verstappen's camp, nor did he reveal any findings from internal investigations that might have influenced the decision. Instead, Mintzlaff chose a generic framing. You can't keep relying on history, an ideological justification that turns what might have been a personal issue into an organizational necessity. When you combine what was said with what was left out, a pattern appears. Management wants to reframe the issue as one of governance and professionalization, while keeping the more sensitive fronts, the relationship with their star driver, clashes with Helmut Marko, or personal conduct details, out of the public debate. It's a classic corporate communication move. Admit the need for change, protect reputations, and control the damage without exposing internal fractures. And that's just the beginning. Remember this lack of detail. In a bit, we'll see why that omission activates 3 fault lines that could decide the team's future. Let's map the key players. On one side, Red Bull GmbH, the corporate head that now wants its hands firmly on the wheel. On the other, the race team, which needs technical leadership and operational stability. In the middle, historic figures like Helmut Marko, whose tone has been far more inflammatory, and Max Verstappen's inner circle, whose practical role has been left in narrative limbo. And then there's Laurent Mekies, the man now in charge. Why does Mekies matter? Because choosing him isn't just about plugging in a replacement with the same profile. The briefing around him points to a more technical, operational type. He's more focused on integration and process management than on charismatic leadership. That signals a clear priority: technical coordination, development discipline, and structured relationships with suppliers. Exactly what the 2026 regs will demand from an engineering standpoint. In short, swapping a strong charismatic model for a system management model is an explicit message about how Red Bull wants to operate from here on. Keep Mekies in mind. If he centralizes technical decisions and tightens integration with the Ford Power Unit program, we'll see quick operational gains. If he doesn't, tensions will surface. Now, the technical vectors. In 2026, new power units arrive along with a whole new world of chassis engine integration. That requires coordinated decisions, tight timelines, and a single decision-making hub aligning the factory, the track, and the commercial relationship with Ford. Any misalignment between who sets race strategy and who drives engine development creates technical risk. When Mintzlaff talks about professionalization, he's putting that need at the center of the story. You can't just rely on the fact you've won before. The future demands clear governance. And what about the internal friction? Marko was more blunt. He suggested Horner tried to take control after the death of the founder. Mintzlaff, more diplomatic, said those words were Helmut's responsibility and hinted that assessments change over time. That reveals another implicit confirmation. There are diverging evaluations and visions inside the project. Corporate management chose to distance itself from the harsher lines, but didn't deny that differences of opinion existed. Translated, there was conflict, and it wasn't just about on-track performance. It was internal politics. Let's open a small mental dossier on what to watch for in 2026. I promise 3 signals, and here they are. 1. Who signs off on technical decisions? If Mekies emerges as the approval hub for major upgrades and integration with the Ford power unit, that shows Red Bull has a centralized command. If, on the other hand, Marco or people from the driver's camp keep publicly meddling, the change was only partial. 2. The communication pattern with Ford and sponsors. Public clarity and transparency on power unit development, delivery timelines, and contractual roles. If these points become clear, Red Bull is genuinely professionalizing. If we keep seeing noise and improvisation, the reset was ideological, not practical. 3. The flow of key personnel. Changes in engineering, trackside management, and PR. If there's real technical reinforcement and stronger compliance processes, that's a green light. If it's just a change of face with the same informal structures underneath, be cautious. Keep that third signal in mind. It's the one that will reveal whether professionalization was just corporate talk or a real shift. So plausible scenarios for 2026, based on what Mintzlaff did confirm and what he didn't. Optimistic scenario. Red Bull GmbH centralizes decision-making. Mekies coordinates the technical commercial side. Ford integrates without ego wars. Result, continued competitiveness and a dominant adaptation to the new era. Middle scenario. Mekies leads, but friction with historic figures and the driver's camp persists. The team stays competitive, but is plagued by noisy episodes that complicate crucial calls. Wins are still possible, but with elevated risk. Pessimistic scenario. The change was mostly symbolic. Mintzlaff's omissions hide deep divisions. Major decisions suffer interference and technical development slows. Rivals capitalize and Red Bull loses its edge. Back to the core of the interview, Mintzlaff said the decision is not a risk because it was consensual. But the ambiguity around the triggers is a flashing yellow light. When an organization avoids saying exactly what broke the trust, it usually means one of 2 things. Either the case is too sensitive to expose, potentially involving personal reputation and internal pressure, or leadership wants to control the public narrative until the rest of the plan is locked in. Both options leave room for speculation, and speculation creates noise. So what stands as practical truth? Mintzlaff confirmed 3 things. The exit was a corporate move, there was a need to act, and Red Bull wants to be seen as a professional organization that doesn't live off its past. What he didn't confirm, and maybe never will in public, are the details that would explain who, concretely, lost authority and why. That omission is strategic. It protects assets, avoids litigation, and buys time. But it also keeps the paddock on alert and the media hunting for clues. Closing the loop, I promised, who really runs Red Bull in 2026 will be revealed by decisions, not soundbites. Watch who signs off upgrades, who negotiates with Ford, and who shows up as the decisive voice after critical incidents. Those will be the real tells. Mintzlaff gave the explanation any corporation would: institutional, defensive, and governance-focused. That confirms the change was structured and deliberate. But the lack of concrete facts about the triggers leaves a very flammable space for speculation. The big question is simple. Was this a reset that truly reshapes Red Bull for the new era, or a PR cleanup job that still hides the same old dynamics? 2026 will give the answer. Mintzlaff said, "We had to do something. Red Bull has made its move. Now we wait to see whether the next lap is won by this new governance, or whether the old forces drag the steering wheel back." Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss it when the track starts revealing who's really in charge.